You've stated that the government is in possession of potentially non-human spacecraft. Based on your experience and extensive conversations with experts, do you believe our government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials?
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a SCIF about.
Greetings, and welcome to Ancient Library. In this episode, I'm going to elude the current UFO whistleblower and disclosure situation. Before we start, I give you a quick overview about the chapters in this episode. In the beginning, I'm going to give you a definition of the whistleblowers in general and the connection to the UFO topic and disclosure. The second chapter is about recent activity in this area, congressional government activity, and the current situation. The next chapter is a run through several whistleblowers and their respective stories and cases and potential motivations. The next chapter is a run through several ex or retired intel or military personnel which is speaking up on the matter, but technical no whistleblowers. In the next point, I'm going to explain some terms like SCIF, NDA, OPSEC, national security, as well as the subject of security clearances. The next chapter is about possible repercussions and the legal situation regarding whistleblower activity. Then we're going to talk about the Man in Black, myths and facts on this matter, and then I'll give you my personal conclusion and closing thoughts on the matter as well. So let's start with the first section, UFO Whistleblower Definition. An individual which chooses the activity of whistleblowing, so revealing information about activity within a private, public or government organization that is deemed illegal, immoral, illicit, unsafe or fraudulent. So this is the baseline explanation. Famous example is the well-known whistleblower Edward Snowden, who leaked information and recordings from the National Security Agency in 2014. In connection to the UFO field, there's following to say. A UFO whistleblower is determined by the assumption that mostly government contractors like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, for example, got off-world alien or reverse-engineered craft supposedly acquired through crash retrievals or other SAPs, which means Special Access Programs. UFO whistleblowers are often originated from three sectors: military industrial, government contractors, and intelligence sector. So this can all be mixed around, but these are the origins from the UFO whistleblowers. That's the thing I found out while covering many whistleblower stories and researching those. So we go to the next section, recent activity. Of course, we got the in reality underwhelming but still monumental UAP hearing in July 2023 to start with. 2 retired Navy pilots and 1 retired intelligence officer, David Grusch, who worked in the USAF, NRO and NGA, so in reconnaissance and intelligence sector as well as in the US Air Force, giving testimony under oath in the aforementioned congressional UAP hearing. The link, you can watch this on YouTube, is in the description. The whole sitting was about 3 hours long, and Grusch, Fravor and Graves were asked many questions from the members of Congress. Also rather prominent ones were involved, like AOC or Matt Gaetz, who seemed very straightforward and disclosed some incident regarding a military base and UFOs. I recommend to watch the full thing to get the best angle for the following developments regarding legal ufology or government-acknowledged disclosure attempts. We're gonna cover the present whistleblowers and their input regarding the hearing and testimony in the following sections of this video. But there were more people over the last decades which came out and exposed hidden compartmentalized programs, like in 1989 when Bob Lazar's sport model UFO reverse engineered story was going around the world and got replenished in 2018 with a Netflix documentation. Interesting timing regarding the New York Times article in 2017, only 1 year earlier. Seems a little coordinated, but who knows. There are more other ex-military or contractor people who are leaked or witnessed delicate things, like for example SAPs conducting crash retrievals or using questionable exotic technology in a sinister way. We will pick up later on these particular things, but most of these people aren't considered real whistleblowers without swearing an oath or real legal consequences if they didn't tell the truth. This doesn't mean that the UAP hearing in 2023 is not necessarily a PSYOP type of operation rolling out disclosure. So the next chapters are about the, in my opinion, most important recent UFO whistleblowers, followed by a list of ex-military intelligence or contractor personnel, which also expose certain activities or secret information. So let's start with the first whistleblower on this list, David Grusch, former USAF, United States Air Force, and intelligence officer working in the National Reconnaissance Office and National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Also Afghanistan combat veteran, and he testified in 2023 in a UAP hearing under oath. He's also, or was also, cleared for presidential level information, so very high in the rankings of an intelligence officer, I guess. His claims, highly secretive, a UFO retrieval program and possession of multiple spacecraft of non-human origin, multiple decades-long compartmentalized SAPs, special access programs. So basically echoing the Bob Lazar account from 1989 and the deep state contractor narrative. He was member of the UAP task force and saw UFO data and basically felt the world needs to know and tried it in the most legal way without breaking any laws, seemingly. Known in ufology since the hearing, so about 300-400 days, so basically 1 year. There's the Ross Coulthard initial interview and a few others on YouTube on which he talks about the matter without going much into detail. I will put links in the description. But let's continue with the second individual on this list, David Fravor. Former commander from the US Navy, highly decorated pilot who encountered and chased the so-called famous Tic Tac UFO over the ocean near the coast of San Diego in 2004, the so-called USS Nimitz UFO case. Testified as well in 2023 in the UAP hearing under oath regarding the Tic Tac UFO incident and a general relation between pilots of any sort and UFO-UAP incidents and sightings. Relatively high position, like in the position of executing naval aircraft activity. He's a commander, so basically the leading pilot if they're flying around doing missions and training. So he seems to bring seriousness to the UFO topic and a potential role model for other still active pilots to report UAP. The next person on this list is Ryan Graves. He is also a former Navy pilot, a lieutenant. Also a decorated pilot who reported multiple UAP sightings on instruments like radar, FLIR, etc. Objects with incredible speeds, outpacing everything we got by far. This is also quoted by Fravor in the UAP hearing. He is reporting on different accounts of pilots on craft like the Cube and the Sphere. I put a picture on the screen. But he never saw a UFO or UAP with his own eyes. He also vouches for the safety for pilots and is part of an organization. I think he's maybe the founder of Americans for Safe Aerospace. And we're going to pick up on this national security against aliens narrative later. But I got my thoughts about this. But I give you a quick interjection here before we continue with the next individual on this list. For some people, this UAP hearing and these three people are the holy grail of ufology in recent times. For so many years, these people ain't got seriousness propelled to them by the mainstream, exposing a mindset I don't really like. So in other words, this can be controlled disclosure, step by step, over years controlled by our government, with things embedded like a national security narrative to antagonize any ETs even before the first disclosed official contact happened. This is also included in the UFO and nukes narrative. Hilarious. But just a thought, people like Ryan Graves could just be genuinely concerned about the general safety of pilots who are still on active duty. But I personally think it's a little bit simple-minded to be concerned about security while encountering an immensely more advanced intelligence which seemingly is able to traverse through stars and planets or dimensions far from our understanding. So the next three whistleblowers weren't part of the aforementioned UAP hearing in July 2023. They apparently gave their testimony under oath as well, but in another fashion, at least according to themselves and the rather problematic ufologist and movie maker Stephen Greer. I don't know exactly how this oath and rule set is working with US Congress in the legal situation, but this should not distract from the fact that their stories could still be genuine and should be investigated. So I will now continue with the next so-called UFO whistleblower. Eric Hacker, ex-Navy for a short time and the ex-Raytheon Contractor, conducting jobs as a firefighter and plumber with deployment at the South Pole Station, Antarctica for several months. He testified his story on the Pressclub event in June 2023. His claims: the neutrino ice cube detector, a UFO flight control system connected to UFO crash retrievals and shootdowns. ELF, extra low frequency systems used for voice-to-skull technology a la HARP, and claims that the Christchurch earthquake 2011 was caused by an earthquake weapon, also located in Antarctica and controlled by special access programs or contractor groups like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. He as well mentions that these tsunami things occurred in the Pacific in Indonesia were caused by this earthquake weapon as well, like caused the seaquakes, which caused the tsunamis and killed a lot of people. But I found no one who's actually corroborating the story except one guy, and that's the next whistleblower. It's Michael Herrera, and he's not corroborating this Antarctica stuff, but he says there were other Marines on a mission in the same area who had some weird operations there and basically corroborating the earthquake story in Indonesia. But he got some other wild claims. He's an ex-Marine USMC who was conducting missions in which allegedly encountered a huge man-made UFO transporting weapons, humans, or drugs. Delivered a detailed testimony also in form of a podcast and shows, but originally from the aforementioned Pressclub event hosted by Greer in June 23. He got more wild claims regarding SAPs and the use of the human psyche and controlled substance use to control off-world technology. I've already talked about some of these whistleblower stories, and I put links in the description for all individuals I will cover in this video. So the next whistleblower, DC Long, ex-US Army, reports on deep underground military bases, dumps, and witnessed an early-stage anti-gravity craft created or reverse-engineered by Earth humans in special access programs, with his father also ex-military in a side mission type of scenario. After involved in the incident, everything went downhill for him and his father. Also a wild story. I will leave links and we can speculate about this, especially the last three cases here and the possible motivations for these people to do it. For some it seems cool, but most of the world isn't caring about UFOs and aliens, so this can sabotage whole career paths and therefore lives. So these are 6 UFO whistleblowers who told their stories in a more or less serious frame to the public, some under oath, maybe all of them. The next section will cover additionally ex-military or intelligence sector personnel who is or was actively speaking up on things regarding UFO disclosure, and all connected fields which are military, intelligence and cutting-edge contractor programs, most likely in the compartmentalized special access program format. So let's continue with the next individual from ex-intel or military sector personnel which is speaking up. I mean, we have to add there's a lot of anonymous people which are active still in programs and are giving their testimony and speaking up, but anonymous stuff, I mean, it's not the same value as people which are speaking up with their name. John Ramirez, retired CIA intelligence officer with more than a dozen years of active duty in highly sensitive sectors of the CIA. A few words on his bio. Mr. John Ramirez served from 1984 to 2009 in the CIA Directorate of Science and Technology, Directorate of Intelligence, and the ODNI, National Counterproliferation Center, NCPC. At CIA, he was an intelligence analyst and chief, ELINT analyst branch specializing in ballistic missile defense, weapon system radars, and technical collection operations. At the NCPC, he was the SIGINT specialist and a multi-discipline collection requirement strategist. John is a US Navy veteran, 1973 to 1979. In the electronics warfare technician field on board surface ships, John majored in political science and graduated in 1983 from the George Washington University, Washington, D.C. John is a member of the Associated of Former Intelligence Officers and the Central Intelligence Retirees Association. So you see the guy's coming around in the intelligence sector for multiple decades, and he got some things to say. His claims or take. Through his expertise in radar technology and satellites, he's sure Earth humans had and have contact with ETs in any shape or form. He seems very committed and goes into great detail on how the intel sector works and drops a lot of heat concerning the topic, representing a rather advanced pro view regarding UFOs in the big picture. Of course, he could still be assigned to an active undercover type counterintelligence program, conducting counterintelligence and partaking in a steering process of the UAP narrative, eventually involving controlled disclosure by dropping certain dates and years with mysterious comments on how the stuff will be rolled out by the government or even something else. I'll put some links in the podcast and shows, like he's indeed dropping some heat and mentioning some years where UFO disclosure is a normal thing, 2025, 2027, something along those lines. You can listen to the podcast and get your own impression on the guy. The next person, Tim Gallaudet, the main protagonist from my last video, USOs, Transmedium Craft and Underwater Aliens, and he's an active oceanographer and retired one-star Admiral of the US Navy. He was the main water science guy for the Navy and held many high positions concerning ocean science, additionally to his high rank of an admiral. He seems to be in for the good and driven by natural, deeply embedded curiosity and rather refreshing and easy on the topic. He's promoting UAP research specified in USOs and water seafloor structures. Not really a whistleblower, but not far away from it either. And another high-ranking ex-military who seems to be obsessed with UFOs. Or is he a charismatic counter-intel agent as well, still sailing active under the government flag? Unlikely, but still possible. For more information, check my USO video or other sources provided down below. Karl Nell, ex-US Army colonel, currently more known through his direct comments and statements regarding UFOs at the SALT conference. The SALT conference, I think Tim Gallaudet is a part of that as well. So, just want to mention it here quick. He was going viral on Reddit and X, mentioned assurance of existing aliens and ETs, highly ranked and decorated colonel with technical PhDs and contractor work, Northrop Grumman, etc. And he was part of the Space Force as well. And so a seemingly heavyweight in the power structure. And let's take a look at the short clip of his conversation at the SALT conference.
And so, Karl, here's the $1 million question. Do you believe that a higher form of non-human intelligence has visited this planet?
Right. So non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing. And there are unelected people in the government that are aware of that.
And so, Karl, that is quite a bold statement. I'm wondering, and I'm curious, how confident are you that that is true?
There's zero doubt.
At first, I want to mention here, he is saying NHI, non-human intelligence in this clip, which is not necessarily aliens, but it's later getting clearer that he's talking about advanced NHI alien-type being, not whales or other. Advanced or not advanced non-human intelligence. So another high-profile dude confirming all this essentially Bob Lazar progenitor story of hidden programs conducting work with ET spacecraft, crash retrievals, shootdowns, or other contact events with aliens of humanoid form or other higher NHI. How many of these people will stick their neck out and stack up the potential pressure to disclose the alien reality to the public? Or is it all a great show introducing Project Bluebeam and a fake false flag alien invasion? Tell me your take on the whole matter down below. The next person, Bob Jacobs, is a retired USAF and PhD, reported on UFOs and nukes topic, reporting on UFO activity on nuclear facilities and warheads, also covered in a previous video of mine. And UFOs and nukes, like he's basically the main guy for this subsection of ufology. He wrote books covering many cases and was traveling around the US country to interview people, and I'll put some links into the description, but I want to give you the full picture here. These are just a few whistleblowers with all different stories and different, I would say, fortes. The one is like an oceanographer, the other guy is working with ballistic missiles, and from all these areas in the military, there are at least one guy coming out and telling something about UFOs. So concerning the UFO whistleblower topic, you often hear the terms national security and security clearances. I'm trying to give you a quick explanation here on why that is the case. National security, security and defense of a sovereign state regarded as a duty of government. With that been said, it also includes all the intelligence and military parts, organs of a state government. So all the data embedded in these sub-government entities, which I guess is spread in many classifications and levels, like the often mentioned security clearances, often attached with certain numbers referring to certain levels of access to restricted data requiring these clearances, which will only be given after extensive background checks on all levels, often deeply private data like family members and history, as well as medical conditions of all sorts, which were mentioned in connection to David Grusch. We could call him the main whistleblower of the past UAP hearing, considering alleged attacks from the government, like to try to take his clearance. But that's all speculation at this point. Additionally, it could be said that it's nearly impossible to get serious information to the public regarding which data lays behind security clearances or non-disclosure agreements, because telling them as a cleared or bound individual would be illegal in almost all of the cases. Breaking these agreements or leaking sensitive data is, or was, the most prominent attribute of a pre-David Grusch whistleblower. The only other way leaking these types of data lays by the higher powers of the respected government or government organs in telling it to the public. One could argue from the position that even that is not possible because of the higher positions, like for example President of the United States, potentially changes every few years, and the people who know the whole picture of these compartmentalized SAPs are not in the public eye, and they seem to be immune to the normal justice system. So the conversation with some ex-high-ranked government people gets boring when they mention they can't say more because of the national securities or NDAs, which I will define here as well. NDA, non-disclosure agreements, basically a legally binding contract with which an individual can sign, often in connection with certain positions or jobs requiring access to sensitive or secret data of any sort. Of course, these type of contracts could be conducted on any type of ethnical playground, eventually involving money or threats to silence people which accidentally were exposed to certain things. Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility, or SCIF. So a SCIF is a permanent or temporary location set up to process and exchange sensitive data secured behind the aforementioned security clearances. So you heard Grusch saying in the intro, after he got asked a direct question regarding NHI, that he can only talk about this in a SCIF. So in other words, requesting the other person to get cleared for the respective data collection to be able to share and work on the same level of knowing, I suppose. I think some level of clearances are and can be achieved on a need-to-know basis while working in higher, in this case, congressional or political ranks in the government. So even if these people get briefed in a SCIF, they won't be able to share it with us normal, uncleared people of the world. So I guess the answers for all these questions asked in the hearing will not see the light of day in such a way that it will come from the US government. Speaking of concrete information, although it seems like they are in the process of rolling out a potential alien narrative since 2017. But I'm going off track here. We continue with under oath, repercussions, and the legal situation. So regarding the so often mentioned UAP hearing, all three whistleblowers swore to tell the truth under oath. And if it will be evident that they had lied in front of Congress, like hypothetically, then they will be prosecuted and could receive very harsh judgments in form of long jail time or, which basically ridicule their whole careers by betraying the entity for which they worked their whole life for. So considering the broad mainstream, to even agree to such a process can be seen as a significant win for UFO disclosure, in a more serious angle to the whole topic. Let's move to the next section, the man in black. Mentioned in different places in ufology, considering unknown people in black suits taking anything which should be not seen in the first place, kinda like the famous movies with Will Smith, etc. Currently even mentioned by a member of Congress, Paulina Luna. I put a thumbnail here on the screen from Lato Files. You can see she said she got briefed by the man in black, which sounds weird considering the potential nature of this type of meetings. Maybe even not to mention to get briefed by them in the first place. And mentioning this on media channels or the internet. Man in Black got mentioned by many military or intel personnel related to UFO incidents where these people show up and take all the footage or other evidence of a UFO or alien contact. Even David Fravor in the Tic Tac case on the USS Nimitz mentioned something similar as well. Man in Black is a very broad description of a group of people, and in some UFO cases it's even said that there are two sorts of Men in Black. The second group would contain of ETs and not a non-pseudo-Uber-government group only containing Earth humans. So a very mysterious subject, and I guess in theory this could be used by some people to avoid trouble or important questions. Like the man in black took everything, I'm out kind of thing, going more in the direction of plausible deniability. So let's move to the conclusion. I would love to see more political events like the UAP hearing, because this is just the beginning of acknowledging intelligent disclosure regarding the whole field of ufology, or in other words, contact to other life forms in the process of building advanced anti-gravity propelled craft, or the reverse engineering of retrieved craft from questionable events like UFO shootdowns with supposedly exotic weaponry built in random radar system, just for one example of a claim surrounding these recent whistleblower events. Or on the other hand, these events could just end in a SCIF and national security and secrecy talk, which basically requires whistleblower to reach the world or the public eye. So a rather self-sacrificing way, which is connected with many potential unfortunate things considering the world we live in. So even if we subtract David Grusch from the whole thing, we can see that there are still many Bob Lazar-esque stories from ex-military or intelligence personnel leading to the conclusion, or high chance, that we, the human race who lives on this earth in general, at least got some exotic, either secret created on their own, like solving anti-gravity in the 1940s, it's like a myth, or obtained and re-engineered through special access programs with more or less success. And I sincerely hope the developments on this planet will progress in the right direction of a general disclosure, and additionally a process of anti-stigmatizing the subject, because even if we not already made contact with someone, someday it will be reality, in which we even may be the more advanced life form interacting. But this is very unlikely if you ask me. About my personal opinion, I don't think we were the first intelligent developed beings in this universe. Just only from the fact of the silly little time fraction, or the silly little fraction of time we existed, and all the stuff around us supposedly exists. Like the universe, suns, planets, like even mountains and rivers. So thanks for watching, and until next time.
Several months ago, my office received a protected disclosure from Eglin Air Force Base indicating that there was a UAP incident that required my attention. I sought a briefing regarding that episode and brought with me Congressman Burchett and Congresswoman Luna. We asked to see any of the evidence that had been taken by flight crew in this endeavor and to observe any radar signature as well as to meet with the flight crew. We were not afforded access to all of the flight crew. And initially, we were not afforded access to images and to radar. Thereafter, we had a bit of a discussion about how authorities flow in the United States of America, and we did see the image. And we did meet with one member of the flight crew who took the image. The image was of something that I am not able to attach to any human capability, either from the United States or from any of our adversaries. And I'm somewhat informed on the matter, having served on the Armed Services Committee for 7 years, having served on the committee that oversees DARPA and advanced technologies for several years. When we spoke with the flight crew, and when he showed us the photo that he'd taken, I asked why the video wasn't engaged, why we didn't have a FLIR system that worked. Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico. And when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down, he said that his FLIR system malfunctioned, and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection, as you would typically see in a test mission. So I guess I'll start with Commander Fravor. how should we think about the fact that this craft that was approached by our pilot had the capability of disarming a number of the sensor and collection systems on that craft?